I always felt like I needed to be superwoman. I needed to be super mom, super orthodontist. I needed to hold everybody else together. I needed to hold it together for my patients, for my team. I needed to push through.
Run if you can, walk if you can't, crawl if you must, but never ever give up because it's about your effort.
Hello, and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and guys, today is going to be a great day. I'm introducing you to a great new friend of mine. His name is Dr. Alan Stern, and he is a dentist, a speaker, and a lead coach at Better, Richer, Stronger LLC, which is a dental coaching company. He's also an author of an incredible book called Enjoy the Ride. I know you're going to love him. We had so much to talk about. I literally couldn't stop talking. So we are going to separate this out into 2 episodes. So catch part 1 today, and then you'll hear the next one on Friday, being released on Friday, where we talk about our definition of success. I actually loved this conversation so much because we got to both share a little bit about our own history and our own experience within dentistry. And really, we have very different pasts within the profession and very different perspectives now, but so many similarities you'll recognize as well. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. I hope you find some similarities in either one of our stories with your own, and maybe just an opportunity to not feel so alone out there in this incredible profession that we call dentistry, this incredible profession we call healthcare, which we both know can feel very insular and lonely at times. So, my friends, I hope you enjoy this conversation. Can't wait to get you to meet Dr. Alan Stern.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It is, well, for me, it's a Saturday morning. I don't know how it's going to be for my very wonderful special guest, but we are here at both Better, Richer, Stronger and the Business of Happiness. I discovered through the miracle of Facebook a very fantastic new friend. And it turns out that Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy and I have very similar stories. And today we are going to share a raw conversation, raw, unrehearsed. I have no idea what either of us is going to say, but it's going to be very, very eye-opening for you all. And I hope you draw something really valuable out of this. Let me introduce my brand new friend, and I cannot wait to meet you in 3D and give you a big fat hug.
Oh,
But
imagine that. That'd be
yeah,
so
Dr.
good.
Tarryn MacCarthy is here. She is the happiness and prosperity coach for high achieving women and men in dentistry and medicine. And that's very important. Tarryn is the host of the Business of Happiness podcast, and I understand that I am the first guest in your new podcasting studio, which is beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. Welcome to the chicken coop renovated into
Well,
the Business of Happiness podcast studio.
well, I hope my appearance does not detract from the beauty of your studio.
Nonsense.
But Taryn empowers leaders in healthcare to strive for inner fulfillment and true, authentic success. She's an orthodontist. She's an author. She's a motivational speaker. She is the founder of Embrace Orthodontics in Maine, too cold for me, and the proud mom of 3. Taryn coaches healthcare leaders, leaders of their families, and leaders of their own dreams on how to step into their unique power to redefine success. Redefining success is really important, and to find happiness and freedom. Taryn believes that within each of us lies the power to live a life of enormous abundance and joy, and that when we feel good about ourselves, we have a greater power to do good in the world. Man, that could be my manifesto right there, except for the orthodontist.
I love it.
Mom of 3, I'm a dad of 2. Sorry.
But absolutely. I mean, I'm so excited when you connected with me, Alan. I'm so excited for this friendship and also for this conversation this morning because we do have so much in common. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my audience on the Business of Happiness podcast. So, welcome, all my Business of Happiness hivers. This is the one and only Dr. Alan Stern, who you are listening to today. And he too is a practicing dentist. He's also a coach. And the business that he's created is called Better, Richer, Stronger. You might know him from Better, Richer, Stronger. And you might also know him from this awesome book. He is the author of Enjoy the Ride, Lessons for the Quest to Live a Joyful, Profitable Life in Dentistry. Man, we have so much in common, just even from reading the subtitle to your book here. So Dr. Stern works with dentists who want to create a workplace that is productive and profitable and a life that is rewarding and meaningful. Here. And he is a speaker and presents to dental groups to really help them define what it means to build a better team. Oh my gosh. That is such an important need right now, Alan, and rekindle their passion for what matters. And, this is what I love about you, Alan, is you have a fascinating history with dentistry.
Yeah.
And really your perspective of your place in our profession has really changed and morphed over time.
Yes.
Share a little bit for us as we're doing so in conversation, what that journey looked like for you.
Oh, Tarryn, it's been a long one. It's been a 41 and a half year journey. And I'm proud to be not only still standing, but flourishing after some really downtrodden, difficult years. Look, I am very open about my history. And I think knowing how I fell on my face and why I fell on my face and how I recovered and became resilient is every bit as important as where people think you and I are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Tarryn, just to deviate just for a moment, no matter how much or how successful you think people are, you don't know. And the lesson that took me probably 30 of my 42 years to learn, you don't know what price Dr. MacCarthy or Dr. Stern paid to get to where you think they are today. Mm-hmm. And then more importantly, nobody knows if they're willing or able to pay that price to get that. That's the lesson that took me a long time to learn. I am the son of a Holocaust survivor. I'm the son of a hero, a faulted and flawed human being who rose to heroism unwittingly and not voluntarily. But in my mom's mind, because of her history, was the basic life truism that Jewish people were put on this earth to suffer. And that was ingrained into me and very likely into my younger brother. And I don't want to dwell too much on the other half, but I'm more open about it. But I was never given by my dad, my father, an ounce of respect. There was a level of emotional abuse in my home that I don't want to go into detail on. It's not important. But I came out into dental school with a really poor self-esteem and a really poor self-efficacy. That's a coach term, right? We'll teach people about that later. And going into dental school was not much of an experience in terms of enhancing my self-esteem or self-efficacy. It just wasn't. And there's no blame there, by the way. I have no anger because dental school culture is what it is. And dental instructors are good people plodding their way through the world just like us. But I got out with very low self-esteem, self-efficacy. And I tried to be something that I wasn't. Sound familiar?
Yep, absolutely.
And I took the advice of coaches, consultants, advisors, marketers to the tune of $200,000 or more with no increase in income to pay for it. And then I was strong-armed into buying my suite right at the height, right as the real estate bubble was going to burst. And all of a sudden, I found myself living paycheck to paycheck in my 50s. Had to sell my house under duress, cried for weeks. And all of a sudden, I found that cash was flowing. It wasn't escaping me anymore. That's when I discovered my why. That's when I discovered that so many other dentists had similar issues. In fact, all of us do. So what I did was I redefined myself. I reestablished my sense of gratitude, and I plodded on and I grew and my influence grew. And I'll tell you one way I end all of my talks after encouraging people that they can have the practice of their dreams. They can do what they want as long as they're focused and they're true to themselves. How does a kid who was programmed inadvertently to suffer, who got very little respect and very little nurturing at home, how does a kid like that grow into somebody who can influence a group of people, special people, extraordinary people, achieving people like Dennis? This is my dream come true. And what I want to do for the rest of my life is have people welcome me into their dreams come true as I welcome you and all of our listeners to mine.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love it. And what I love about it is that sense of hope and opportunity at any stage in life, no matter what your past looked like, no matter who you thought you were, there's always a potential to live out a new reality and a new algorithm of success.
Yes. And you know what, Tarryn, before I turn the tables on you, I'm going to introduce, I'm going to call it an Alanism, even though I stole it from a gentleman I am in a leadership group with. And this is really cool. Watch this. Don't let your circumstances define you. Let them refine you.
Love it.
And that is our story, Tarryn. Let's turn the tables and talk about how you got to this amazing, fantastic, wonderful, beautiful point in your life.
What I love about sharing our stories with one another here and in this platform is that so many listeners are going to identify with parts of your story.
Yes.
And my story is vastly different with a very similar core, which is fascinating. Unlike you, I never had that same fear or limitation financially, which I know is such a fear and reality for so many of our colleagues. I mean, that's something that right now so many people are swimming in, that anxiety, the $1 million student loan debt. I mean, these are very real concerns. And I did have this $1 million student loan debt. My husband is in the dental profession as well. So trust me, when we graduated from dental school, we didn't have the parents who paid for dental school for us. So we graduated with a ton of debt. But so interestingly, my story is from from an immigrant's perspective. So we came to America. I was born in South Africa. I came to America with this idea of the American dream and a land of opportunity that didn't exist for me in South Africa. And there was no question I was going to make my dreams come true. That kind of self belief was in me from very, very young. That self belief also was coupled with intense hard work ethic. And what I find so many of our listeners can relate to is that belief that I'm the hardest working person in the room. I might not be the smartest. I might not be the tallest or the prettiest or the loudest or the quietest, but I will be the hardest working person in the room. And that resolve was really deeply embedded in me. And it was also my Achilles heel because it is what caused me to define resilience as the push through. I would make it happen no matter what. And I think that gave me a lot of courage in terms of the financial perspective. I mean, I always felt like even if I lost it all, I'd be able to build it up again. That kind of perspective of being able to push through no matter what. But it was that push through mentality that burned me down to the ground. And my story actually started when I always thought that happiness would find me after a certain point. So I kept finding myself saying things like, I'll be happy when.
Yep.
And then just being content with not being happy while I was pursuing that next goal. And the goals I kept achieving, I'm the master of achieving goals, as so many of our colleagues are. I mean, we put ourselves through dental school, which is torturous for so many people. Not many people have had great, phenomenal dental school experiences or residency experiences, but man, we push through. And, in dental school, when I finally achieved that DMD, I was like, oh, I'm ready for happiness to set in. And it just didn't.
Yeah.
So then I pursued the next goal, which was orthodontic residency, because orthodontics looked like the happiest profession. And when I became an orthodontist, same thing. We're beginning to notice the pattern here. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. Since orthodontics is not fulfilling me, it must be business ownership, because that's what I admired so much about the profession, was this marrying of artistry and science and leadership and entrepreneurship. I mean, I'm getting excited just remembering that 19-year-old me right now who just saw so much possibility and opportunity. And when I finally owned my own practice, oh my God, that's when the anxiety and the fear and the overwhelm really started stacking up. And so that's when I started running away from it, trying to escape it. I thought, okay, I can push through, but let me escape at night into alcohol. At one point, excessive exercise. I became a triathlete. I ran marathons. I thought, oh, you know what it is? It's that I'm not a parent. And so after ignoring my body for 30 years, I really struggled with infertility. And when we finally got it right, my husband and I, after much treatment and support from our medical community, my body figured it out very quickly. And I had 2 kids in quick succession. And then the stress and anxiety really piled on. And I think for me, my experience was I always felt like I needed to be superwoman. I needed to be super mom, super orthodontist. I needed to hold everybody else together. I needed to hold it together for my patients, for my team. I needed to push through. And what I ended up doing was burning my body so badly. And this is interesting. Both of my 2 oldest kids were born very prematurely because I was just flushing my body with cortisol on a daily basis and pushing through. I could make my body do anything. Well,
Wow.
that body wasn't a great environment for my babies. And they were born so prematurely that I was back to work treating patients before their due date. If that makes any sense. And yes, you heard that correctly.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot more in common than we even talked before.
Mm-hmm. And so when I found myself with actually a lot of wealth, because if you show up
Mhm.
consistently every single day, compound the law of compounding interest proves you'll eventually get there if you push it out long enough.
Yep. Yep.
If you push your body hard enough, you can run a marathon. I don't care what you say. You really can. You can be in any shape, but you can get there if you show up for yourself day after day after day after day after day with
And pay the
integrity,
price.
and you will pay the price. Thank you. You will pay the price. And that's
Yep.
what I did. And I was the queen of working a full day, coming home to 2 babies, feeling absolutely drained, escaping into a couple glasses of martini, getting up at 4:30 the next morning to run off my hangover on the treadmill and show up for my patients at 8 a.m. and do it all over again and pray and wish my life away, because I was just praying for the weekends. And then the weekends turned into nightmares on Sunday when my anxiety started returning. And I realized I was only living my life 1.5 days a week, and the rest of the time just wishing it away.
Saturday and half a Sunday.
You got it.
Yeah.
And I realized this was no way to live. And I think for me, the fear and anxiety stepped in with the compounding shame, because I had all the wealth. I had everything. I achieved my dream. And yet I was miserable. Hey guys, I'm interrupting your podcast episode to let you know about an incredible new program that I'm launching in January of 2023. It is specifically for practitioners in medicine and dentistry to help you rediscover happiness and inner fulfillment within your profession and your life. I remember what it was like for me when years ago I was so depressed and anxious and feeling like I had created and built a treadmill I just couldn't get off of, pushing through every day and wishing my life away. This program is the how of how to find happiness in your practice and in your life. Because we know that when we feel good, that's when we can do good. Check out thebizofhappiness.com/radical happiness or click the link in the show notes. I cannot wait to see you there.
It's funny you mentioned one of those dirty words. I have a few dirty. I'm in New Jersey, so I say anything. But there's a few dirty words that are really forbidden from my vocabulary to my imperfect best. Shame is one of them. When you read Brene Brown, you get a whole lesson on the really impertinence of shame and how it really needs to be excluded from our lives. That takes a lot of work because when I got out, I graduated somewhere in the middle of my class, and I thought of myself as very unskilled compared to others. And when I get out and I see Frank Spear, John Coyce, Leanne Brady, Jeff Rouse, some of these people, Leanne and Jeff are friends of mine at this point, but when I see their work and I compared myself to what these massive, overachieving, great and generous people have done, I saw myself as this.
Yeah.
And if I had known you 20 years ago, and if I would have compared my 3 to 5 miles a day of running and my little bit of weightlifting to your Wonder Woman marathon triathlete, amazing human being, extraordinary superwoman, I would have years ago, and some people might at this juncture of our conversation might even think of themselves as this. But
and isn't that interesting with comparison?
Yeah.
With comparison. And I think that that's the interesting thing is probably you were doing the same thing financially as well.
Yes.
Comparing yourself to everybody else around you and establishing what I did was looking to other people as our definition of success.
Yep. I can't be you. You can't be me.
Absolutely.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's actually a superpower.
Yeah. Yep. I'm now working out in a gym that in classes, which have really made a difference for me. But I exercise with people old enough to be your children, let alone mine. And I see these former athletes in there, and they are crushing it. And I'm huffing and puffing it. And my coach, Tom DiOrio, told me I was just about to give up in the middle of one session. He says, "Run if you can, walk if you can't, crawl if you must, but never ever give up because it's about your effort."
Absolutely.
And if we are bringing our best selves to life in and out of the operatory, you got to revel in that because we all have our talents and we all have our limitations. Get over it.
I love that you're bringing in that health perspective and how we see other people in terms of our perception of their health. Because if I take my own life for an example, you just mentioned if you had been running with me, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, I looked like I was the epitome of health.
Yeah.
I was a complete mess.
Mm-hmm.
And you alluded to this at the top of the hour when you said, we don't have an idea of what somebody else is living through. We don't know what that looks like for them. So here I was running marathons, having a business, and a successful business from that perspective financially. If you looked at my numbers, it looked successful, but my body was burning down to the ground.
Yep.
And I was so miserable that I couldn't see the value in the dollars around me. They had no value.
Yep.
So even the perception of my body, the perception of the dollars and the material wealth I had actually meant nothing to me. And
Right.
my perception of my success was so, so low, so low to
You know,
where I wanted to and really did try to throw it all away. Just
and of course, an unenlightened person, no, let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. A person looking at the surface of what we are saying is going to say, look at both of you. You're
yeah.
fantastic. What do you have to complain about? What could you possibly have complained about? You guys have everything. Wrong. Can I share a dirty secret with you that nobody on either of our podcasts can tell anybody?
Go for it.
By the time this thing airs, I will have been at the Greater New York meeting, and I was asked to speak about KPIs. And having fallen on my face financially and just took every bit of muscle to recover, I'm the last dude who should be talking about these big KPIs, but maybe I should be the first one.
Mm.
Because my KPI, and I dare say yours, is happiness.
Oh, absolutely.
What good is all that money? Look, one of the things, another Alanism that I have is in this country, we are endowed in three unalienable rights. And you know what they are, Dr. MacCarthy? They are life, liberty, and the pursuit of a Tesla. No, 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 no. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of a big house. No, no, no.
Yeah.
The pursuit of a $20 million retirement. No. The pursuit of what?
Mm.
Happiness. The
And
business of
I think we
happiness.
forget that perspective in terms of success. And the way I like to think of it is, and you're a parent, as am I, but if anyone asked you, what do you wish for your kids? Our answers are all the same. I don't care. Just, I want her to be happy. I don't care
Yep.
what she does. I just want her to be happy. And we forget that we were once those kids, that somebody said that about us, and that was all that mattered.
Yep.
And we expect happiness to just happen, and we forget our radical personal responsibility in reaching for and defining that happiness, because what's happiness to you is different from what it is to me. We have different definitions of happiness. And
Yes.
I even venture to say our happiness definition changes throughout our lives. What was for me a definition of happiness in my 20s is completely different from what it is now.
Oh, yeah.
And giving
Oh,
ourselves that permission to redefine our happiness and redefine our success throughout our lives is an enormous freedom.
yeah. But it's also a responsibility
Huge.
and it's also a choice.
Absolutely.
And it is very easy, I think, Tarryn, to use our amygdala to invoke fight or flight or freeze on anything that causes us stress.
Yeah.
And really and truly, the stressors in a dental practice, they're real. And I
Very
don't care
real.
what size practice you have. You know, whether you're a multi-million dollar DSO or a single solo practice like ours, there's stressors there.
Oh, it's the definition of dentistry is
Right. Show me a,
hyper acuity. Absolutely. We're
yeah,
welcoming patients with dental trauma into our worlds on a
yeah,
daily basis. There is
yes.
no better petri dish for stress than
But
dental.
none of those things that cause us needless stress, and I would say that's 99% of what happens in the dental office,
Absolutely.
none of them is an existential threat. Most of them are learning opportunities.
Yes. None of them are real. None of them are real.
They're
And
problems.
I agree. The feeling we're experiencing is real.
Yeah.
100%. But we have a choice of how we think. See, that's the thing I didn't realize for 40 years of my life is that I could choose my thoughts. That my thoughts influence my reality.
Yes.
100%. So your $100 and my $100 could feel like enormous wealth or complete poverty. And my
Yes.
thoughts define that reality for me. And I think that was the superpower I never realized when I was younger. I always felt wealthy. We literally moved to America and had no winter shoes or winter coats because we'd never experienced winter. So we found out that in the community we lived in, people put them on the trash. Literally, people put good clothes on their trash and we got them for free. Do you know the wealth that we felt in that moment? My first pair of skates, free. Ice skates, I for free. My whole family had free ice skates. We felt so wealthy. I couldn't believe I owned ice skates and warm jackets. Not $1 did we pay for any of those things. We felt enormously wealthy. My perception was what colored my reality. And I think that that was what created for me this always the sense of enormous wealth.
Yeah.
I never felt the poverty of being $1 million in student loan debt with my husband. The day we graduated from dental school, we were at 800. At that time, that was 22 years ago. $800,000 was a lot of money for a couple to be starting their lives out with
Yeah.
not a job. I wonder what that looks like in terms of inflation now, in terms of
Well,
today's
let me tell you,
numbers. But it could have been scary, but we didn't feel that because we're choosing that thought process. That thought of the enormous wealth and abundance that we were sitting on was real.
it's a and I was born into a very deep scarcity mindset.
Yes.
And I always thought of myself as poor.
Yeah.
And it was only until I took a run on the boardwalk here on the Jersey Shore after I had sold my house, after I had really seen myself as totally hopeless. I remember running north on the Belmar Boardwalk. I looked to my right out the ocean, took a whiff, and it just floated into my head that no matter how much or how little I think I have more than most people in the world could imagine having. And I have less than some. So what makes me any different than you, Tarryn? Nothing.
Nothing.
Because there's only one person who is the richest person in the world. There's only one person who's the best dentist in the world. And chances are pretty good it's neither you nor me. And chances are that person doesn't even know who he or she might be.
Well, what's interesting is here's an interesting perspective shift. What if it is me?
Yeah.
What if it is me? What if my definition is just a little bit different? Because honestly, I think I am the best. And that's for me the best that is defined by me.
Yes.
You know, and are you the best? Yes, you're the best too. See, because none of us are more or less worthy than anybody else. And it's interesting because we get this sense of when you say, I am worthy of this, that there's a conceitedness, that there's an egotistical part of that. And really, nothing could be farther from the truth because if we all felt that worthiness, no more or less than anybody else, none of us would be climbing and scrambling and pushing other people down anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think all too often we see it, and we certainly see it in dentistry, where we are too free to openly and not nicely criticize things that we don't understand. I think if we substitute the phrase, I don't understand, for I don't like, I think we can go a lot further. And if we approach with curiosity rather than critique.
I love that.
And even Tarryn, as we evolve professionally, if we approach the masters that we see that used to make me feel like this, if we approach them with curiosity, say, how'd you do that? Or how can I take a little bit of this and put it into my repertoire?
Love it. I love that you brought up curiosity. And it was interesting because we've talked about so many cool things here this morning, and I love where we've gone with it. But interestingly, before Alan and I started chatting, we thought we're going to talk about resilience here this morning. And I think there have been nuggets of resilience that we've spoken about. But one of the greatest tools for resilience is curiosity.
Yes.
And I love this quote from Pema Chodron. She said, "Let your curiosity be greater than your fear."
Yeah.
And that is such a powerful quote when it comes to resilience. Whether it's financial fear, whether it's fear of not being good enough, whether it's fear of not having succeeded enough or not being worthy enough, asking yourself, how can I be curious about this?
Yeah.
Immediately takes the fear away from it. How can I
Yes.
see this differently? How can I have a new perspective in this situation? Immediately, it pulls us out of that amygdala fight or flight and puts us back into our forebrain where we have that intellectual understanding. We can choose a new perspective, a new thought, and perhaps a new definition of success.
Now, Tarryn, that's great. It sounds so easy, doesn't it? That's so
Doesn't
easy.
it? Just like
Anybody can
that.
do it. That's a discipline. That is really a discipline. And for some people, it's harder to learn than for others. And that is just reality. And I think we have to embrace the reality that we're in, acknowledge it consciously, and look forward to what we can do better, because every one of us can be better. So choose where you want to be better, richer, stronger, happier, more prosperous. And I think we've gone a little bit longer than we had planned this morning. And so I will retroactively apologize to the audience for exceeding your attention span. And maybe some of you won't even have watched to the end of this, but we'll put a little urge on there for people just to watch it in segments, because I think what we've done here is exchange some very raw information and some real serious pondering points for everybody. And men, women, I don't care. This is not gender specific. And your coaching model is overtly the same as mine is covertly. I am not gender specific in where I want to go. In fact, I think women and men share more similarities than they do differences.
And we have so much to learn from one another.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tarryn, can we get together again?
Let's do it.
And let's continue this conversation in at least one more chapter on our podcasts.
I love it.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stick my neck out here and I'm going to take some risk, because I am not afraid. I am curious. I am curious, Tarryn, at what you and I can collaborate in doing in the years to come. As I ponder this conversation, something is going to happen.
Love it.
So, Tarryn, I can never thank you enough for
the
luck of you entering my life. And I welcome you with real open arms. I look forward to giving you a big fat 3D hug soon.
Yes, that would be amazing.
And may I
thank you too for you and for this awesome conversation. And thank you all of you for joining us for this little bit of extended conversation that we had this morning. I think it just speaks to our passion for this and
with
the importance of this message in our community.
With your permission, I'm going to do my sign off.
Let's do it.
My sign off goes like this. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you got something taken away from this. But I want you to eat healthy. I want you to live healthy. I want you to exercise. I want you, please get enough sleep. Make somebody's life better each and every day, because that, my friends, is what life is about. And to the best of our knowledge, we only have one shot at this thing called life. So I want you to do whatever it takes to enjoy the ride.
Love it.
Tarryn and I will see you next time. Tarryn, see you later. Bye.